2021. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to the public on request, and members of the public may access this meeting through the CTC website. Item 2 on our agenda is opportunity for members of the public to suggest the addition of topics for discussion or to address topics of interest, with the presentation limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone present like to address the board? Seeing none, just a reminder to the board members, the board self-evaluation that SAC-COC requires is due, and ask you to turn that in to Dr. Garrett at our next meeting. And for those who haven't turned in the evaluations for the chancellor and the auditor, item number 3 on our agenda is admissions and recruitment update. And Mr. Williams, if you would present that to us, please.
Go up to the mic, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello,
Howdy.
my name is Amy Williams. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment, and today I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we do in admissions. Am I talking too long? Admissions is pretty multifaceted, but I'm just going to go over a few of our areas that we cover. So, right today, just bogus applications, data integrity, our dual credit transition to first time in college, and fast track and recruiting. So our first one is our fraudulent applicant in bogus applications. So what is the purpose? People want to know why would you even have to do this? Why does this need to be talked about? Well, IT says that the perpetrators are looking for security vulnerabilities. Financial aid says they're looking for financial aid fraud. And then there's also spamming of unsolicited messages. So the process that I do every night is I check the applications. Then I identify the fake students. There's a suspicious box that you check so that way the application is not imported into what we call our SIS, our Student Information System. And then most recently, we developed a 2-factor authentication email. So what does a bogus applicant look like? This mostly. Just kind of a funny email that doesn't match the name, something with emergency contact where it's just one name. There's a lot of other factors that play in, but I thought these were pretty obvious, so I wanted to just kind of give you a brief overview of what that looks like. How many do we have? I only have the first 3 quarters, so you can see about 1 to 5% in the first 3 quarters, and those were caught in our first line of defense. And the first line of defense was, of course, checking the nightly apps, okay? So, I knew that was in there, I just didn't remember which one it was on. So, our admissions efforts. We have the 2-factor authentication, and that's gonna be that email that goes out and is real, then we're just gonna reverse the process of what we did to mark them as, how we identified them as fake. If the student does make it into the system, we collaborate with IT to disable logins. We mark them in our SIS, which is Elution Colleague, as fake, so no one else on campus even has to deal with the student. They can see it and they can move along. And we also update any kind of shared spreadsheets that we have. So that's just the first part. It's a very small section on bogus applicants. Do y'all have any questions for that section? No? Okay.
I'd just like to add that, probably 20, 25 years ago, we probably had 0 of those kinds of things happening because you had to come up here and you registered, and we just didn't have that thing going on. Probably the onset of scamming coming on and money out there available and stealing your identity and using it some other way. So now we have to do that. That takes a whole team of people. So back in our day, we didn't have to have a group of people that did that, but today we do. And so We thank you for staying on top of that and having a team. How many people do you have working on that daily, would you say?
Well, it's just me at
one.
night.
Just you at night?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and then if we identify them, when we pass out the reports to my team members,
Yeah.
they'll see it if anyone made it through
Okay.
the system. And then
Okay.
we reach out to IT, and then there's multiple
Yeah.
departments that work on it. Yes, sir.
Including IT?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir. And just a little bit more information. This isn't just central to CTC. I just attended a TACRO conference, and that's for admissions officers and registrars.
Yeah.
Everyone is dealing with this.
Well, you
And-
can imagine what the big universities like A&M and UT have. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of these hits, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, it's,
If a student got through
It's
the
well
system
talked about.
before this,
oh, I'm
if a student got through this before the system was in place and acquired student aid, what does that cost us?
Well, a couple of things. One is, it would cost us to have to probably return that money to the federal government when we, yes, we would. The federal government is not in the collection business, you know, they're in the doling out business. So they have already, we've known that for a number of years. And one of the things we put into place is to stop that, so that students have to come back and say, we are a student. You know, they could apply for financial aid, we wouldn't know it. And that happens all the time. And but if you dole that money out back to that name or whoever that was, then the problem is ours. So we have instituted a plan here and a program here where we don't allow that money to go out until we actually verify that that is a real student. And so once that happens, and the student can quit, and then we're still on the hook. But for the most part, it's saved us millions of dollars by doing that.
Which makes it worthwhile.
Yes, absolutely.
How does this affect us with the Higher Education Coordinating Board? If somebody registers as a fake student, do we get penalized for that student not graduating?
No, no, they're trying to steal identity, so it wouldn't ever get to the coordinating board. I guess it could get to the extreme to where a non-student could go in and create a transcript and grades and courses, but I think I'm sure there's safeguards there, which you'd have to talk to Dr. Garrett or Miss Dean Welch about that, but I don't think that really could happen. So we're not too worried about that. It's catching these things on the front end and then eliminating them, because they're going out all over the world with these things.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Question.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
long has this been in effect for us?
For us, we always had a report that we checked nightly when we got Target X.
When you say always,
So they implemented Target X in 2017,
Okay.
and my predecessor would check nightly reports. I did do some adjustments to the report because I noticed it wasn't catching all of the students, and that has happened within the past 6 months where I adjusted the report to hopefully catch more of the students. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the dual credit early admissions transition to first time in college. So dual credit, if you don't know what dual credit is, that is when you are taking a high school course and a college course and you get credit for both of them. Early admissions means you're just taking a college credit course and you're not getting any high school credit. Well, these are our current students. So when the pandemic hit, I really started questioning these processes. Like, why are we making them reapply? Why do they need to fill out this paperwork? We have everything we need. And so what I did is I put this on our website so our students can find it, so parents can find it, the counselors can find it. And it just talks, just says, everything's gonna stay the same, there's no need to reapply. I do have that little buffer in there, hey, contact us just in case we didn't transition you over to the first time in college. So this has involved a lot of interdepartmental collaboration, starting with us in public ed. So public ed, they are the department that has the contracts with KISD and Coppers Cove, those students. So what they did is they provided a spreadsheet of all of their graduating seniors to us. And when I say us, I say the admissions department. My team went in and we converted all of those records we had to first time in college. Then we reactivated the degree plan they had on file. We ended all of their dual credit holds and checked to make sure we had transcripts on file. After that, we passed our list off to advising. Then advising went ahead and reached out, because advising has to do this initial advising session. So it worked really great. I think it was a really big hit. I know we got some really good feedback. So we're gonna keep this process in place. It's definitely streamlining. It's good for the student, it's good for the ISD, it's good for the staff. It works, we like it. We're gonna move forward with this. So the next thing I'm gonna talk about is our fast track recruiting. So what is fast track? Fast track is where we go out to the schools, our local ISDs, and we have application sessions. So we make the student, we don't make the students, but we sit down and the counselors make the students fill out the CTC application. And in those sessions, we just walk around the classroom, we answer all the questions, we help them get through the application, we tell them about all of our degree plans, we talk about tuition, we talk about the difference between going to UMHB versus going to CTC, especially during your first 2 years. You know, it's a 10 times the cost to go to UMHB. So we talk about those kinds of things, and really just a whole invest in yourself type conversation we have with them. We also ask them to start their financial aid. So that way their parents, when they get home, their parents all they gotta do is log in and enter their information. That's it. So it's a really great program. We're so happy to be able to go out to the ISDs. We do meet with the counselors. We try to go to their counselors' breakfast. We sometimes have one here when it's not the pandemic. And I've placed cups all for you. That's what we give the counselors, because they sit in the classroom with us and they help us. They keep the students in line. They provide social security numbers for the students. They coordinate all of the efforts with us. So this is just kind of our little gift to repay them. In addition, we give all of the students applying pens, pencils, keychains, whatever Barb's willing to give us. And okay.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Armstrong?
I think that's a great program and support you 100%. Would there be any possibility or benefit to visit Lampasas High School and Gatesville High School?
I am born and raised from Lampasas, and so I have reached out to Miss Allen a couple of times, usually every year, and ask her if she needs help. But Miss Allen has a program already in place. She says, and I don't want to speak on her behalf, but I will say, you know, what she told me, which was she contacts all of the seniors and she makes sure that they apply, and if they don't apply, she tracks them down. So she has a pretty solid system, but we do offer our assistance whenever they would like it. And for
Don,
Gatesville,
Miss Allen is our site representative, our employee who is in Lampasas at the high school. So she does all of these things out there with Lampasas, along with a few other high schools in the vicinity out there.
How about Gatesville?
Same thing. We have a representative up there who does the same thing. So she has outreach and she feeds them information and programs and products so that they can do these things out there.
Good,
So
thank you.
she can't go out to every high school. That's why we have those site directors.
Thank you.
so let's get into the numbers. I thought these were pretty interesting. You know how I talked about we gave them goodies? Well, this year we gave them an extra incentive that if they filled out the application correctly and all the way and they checked that fast track box, we would give them a t-shirt. Hopefully it worked, but again, because it's very crucial to our reporting so we can run these numbers and say, okay, this many people applied at this school and this many people enrolled. So we try to give anything we can to help them help us type thing, okay? So our first, in 2018-19 is when we visited the schools, and then we tracked the first time in college enrollment. And first time in college means they've graduated high school and now they're taking college courses. Now we do have the early college high school, but those students aren't first time in college. Those are your dual credit students. So everything has to change after that to first time in college, and this affects our state reporting. So I think these numbers are very interesting. I only pulled 45 for Killeen High School, but 115 were first time in college, and that's kind of the trend we're seeing. So while they may have not filled out the application there, we did something right. I really think it's my subliminal advertising. Here, take your pen. Keep a pen on you at all times.
So explain those two bars again. What the blue one?
Oh, I'm so sorry. The blue one is how many apps that were completed while we were at the high school.
Okay.
And the second, the purple one, is how many students from those schools enrolled for the first time in college
okay,
in
good.
fall and spring.
Excellent.
So I think the numbers are pretty good here.
Yeah.
2019, 2020, when we were out at the schools, it's a little bit different, but I thought the numbers were interesting in the fact that they're kind of the same. You know, you see the 165, 131, 151, 138, 144. So I thought that was interesting. It seems as though if they were really interested and they filled out that application, then they really did take the next step. And that's what we're interested in, and that's what makes our efforts worth it as well. So I'm happy to share these numbers with y'all too if y'all want them, you know, outside of this presentation. We did see a decline in enrollments. It's actually not too much, but this is definitely the pandemic. It's definitely the pandemic. When we went out to the schools this year, a lot of the counselors they wouldn't make the students come to our application sessions like they did in previous years. And so they just told us, like, listen, our students are struggling. They're just trying to get by. They're losing parents. They're having to get a job. They're having to live their life. So instead of them making everyone come in and fill out applications, they did it in a way that only the people interested came out. Now, that's something that we can continue to work on when we go to their counselor's breakfast, and when right now we've set up meetings. We have meetings with Miss Nancy Patterson. So hopefully we can get back on track to getting more people applying. But again, I think these numbers aren't too bad. People that are applying are enrolling. And this only tells first time in college. This doesn't tell, and the next year, this doesn't tell if they stopped. Let's say they got out of high school, they took a gap year. These numbers don't report that. This year for fast track advising, of course, we still had more pandemic situations. So we only got out to a few schools, Pathways, Shoemaker, and Killeen ISD. Out of the 211 applicants, we actually have a different way we could measure success, which was with the advising team. The advising team had over 50% of the students that applied had a virtual advising visit. So we think that's very successful. In the past, they didn't have as many. So again, the students that filled out the application, they came in for advising. These are the students that we think are going to enroll, and we hope that they enroll. That is it for admissions updates. My name is Amy Williams again. I'm the director. Can I answer any other questions for you?
Any questions of Ms. Williams? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Amy.
Appreciate it very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the TSIA project success. Ms. Wallenstein and Mrs. Hutchins.
All right, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Eva Hutchins, so I'm going to start, and then Ellen's going to wrap up behind me. So we just wanted to talk to you about something that we kind of started. This has been on our minds based on the roles that we do, which I am over all of the advising offices. So whenever she was referring to advising previously, that was my staff. And so, and then Ellen is our coordinator over our Developmental Studies Math Department. And so we work closely hand in hand to make sure students who are below college ready standards are ready to go into college level courses. So we wanted to share some of the work we've been doing. So what is TSI? You may have heard the term before presented to you. You may have had family who've enrolled, or children, grandchildren, and if they've enrolled in Texas, I'm sure it came up at a Texas college. So it's the Texas Success Initiative. And what the state is doing is trying to ensure that students who are coming into college under an associate degree or level 2 certificate are prepared to go into first-time college courses in the subject areas of math, reading, and writing. And so there's been a recent change to the assessment. They changed that on us in January. And so now there's 2 sections of the test instead of 3. And so you have math, of course, and then you have ELAR, which is our English Language Arts and Reading. But again, as I mentioned, it is required for all students coming into those programs. But as with any state initiative and requirement, they give us exemptions and waivers. So there are some things that would allow a student to bypass this and to go into those entry-level courses. Some of those are going to be, test scores out of high school, SAT, ACT, and our prior military. If you've served honorably, the state says you're exempt from this requirement. And of course, right now, until next summer, we're under some COVID exceptional clauses where we can do some non-traditional things with students as they start the process. So that's just a very brief overview of what TSI is. So why did we start a success project? Why did we have this conversation? Why is there confusion? So what we have found in our time at CTC and working together, and Ellen and I really got to know each other in working on the Pathways Initiative. So when I started in my role in 2017, I was quickly folded into that, and she and I became closely working together in order to accomplish what the state was having us do. And so we started talking early on, and it really became evident this year, especially after COVID, where is the gap with students understanding how important this test is? What do we need to do to resolve that gap? What can we do as an institution, and how can we help students move forward throughout this process? And so one of the things we talk about, and we hear very anecdotally, but we hear that students don't take the test important. They don't prioritize it, and it costs. There's a fee to take it, and it's time and it's money. And an inaccurate test score could require you to take a class that you may or may not need. So we want to make sure students understand that in a way that's relatable to them, because that's what we're always trying to do, and make sure they're taking those pre-assessment activities that the state provides so they can get a grasp of what they're going into. And then if they do take it and they want to retake it because they have that option, what can we provide you as a resource so that you can go into that maybe on a better standing, a better foot. And then once you are in the developmental classes, making sure that students are on track, staying through and progressing. What I found throughout my time at CTC is that previously, we've changed some policies around, but previously students, and I'm sorry, Ellen, I'm going to say this, they put off math until the end. And then that becomes very difficult to have a successful graduate in a program, because sometimes it's difficult to get through that. So we've really changed around, flipped around what we're having students do. The state's changed how we're taking courses. Ellen's going to explain that. And then I am advising students differently by working with them to take classes in a certain sequence. And so that's really what we want to talk to you about today. So I'm going to turn it over to Ellen, and she's going to take it over from here.
Good afternoon. What we figured out, being involved in Pathways and also with the Student Success Advisory Team, is a lot of times we think we're communicating to students, and we are, but they're not hearing what we're trying to get them to understand. And that's why we decided we had to come up with some different ways to give this information. We worked with the Student Success Advisory Team, which has people from across CTC involved in that. That's a very active group. And then we also, of course, worked with Barb Malone and her great team who helped us. So we'd like to show you this first video. It's about 2 minutes. I apologize. It does have music, because what Barb explained to us is that students like to be able to watch the video either with the music or be somewhere that they don't have to turn the music on or turn their mic up in order to still get from the video. So where's the... This is the first video. We have 3 videos. This is the video that goes out on Facebook. The advisors send it out. We can send it out in developmental math when we send emails. So this is more kind of the advertising video. And then, will it go without me having to do something? No? The second video is shown at the testing center, because not everyone's going to see this video. It's also on the website. And so the second video is a shorter version of this. It still gives them all the information, but they're already at the TSI test. It also gives words of encouragement. You know, you've got this, you can do this, because they come in very stressed out. They know they have to take a math test and the English. And of course, they leave the math till last, as Eva said, even when they're testing. But then we have a third video that is shown at the testing center after. This video is also on the website. This just lets them know all of the resources, because otherwise they are handed a piece of paper, they know they didn't pass, and they're just sent home. They don't know the resources that we have. All right. All right, so I wanted to show you this website real quick. The issue was that all of our TSI information was on the website, but it was owned by lots of different departments. Amy, Eva, me, the testing center. So even though we had a lot of information there, we didn't have one place for the student to start. So Barb Malo again came up with this great idea of a launch page. So Barb and I worked on this. It has the video, that same video that you just saw. And then it also has a little more information. It goes into depth. If you want to see if you have an exemption or a waiver, you can click and get more information based on what Eva was telling you. And then it talks about your next steps. The most important next step is the pre-assessment activity. This is state mandated. They don't really tell you what to do or how to do it, but it is state mandated. So they'll come and watch the video, and then we have practice tests for them. And so they can go in and practice a little bit. We do have tutors available now that once they practice, if they want to work with a tutor before they take the test, they can do that. And then we tell them about their other options. So they can go ahead and talk to an advisor at that point before they take the TSI, or they can go ahead and take the TSI. Once they take the TSI, if they're college ready, they're good to go. They start taking their classes. If they're not, they have a few options. And this is one of the things we wanted to do with the project, because we'd never had this before, where we offered free tutoring for them to retake the test. It's hard to just work off of these practice tests because they're not very involved. But once they take the TSI, they're given a piece of paper that shows where they still had to master, especially in math, of all the different concepts that they still had to master. So at that point, they could come to my lab, my Math Express lab. I have tutors that can help them with just those items that they still need to master, and then they can go take the TSI test. And then with the English, that's over at Academic Studio. But this is letting them know that we really do have that help. The hard thing with the TSI test, we have a brand new TSI test, and the scores are in the 900s, and a student will get like a 947, and to pass you need a 950. And they'll say, well, it's only 3 points away. Not really, because the way the TSI test works is you get different points depending on how hard a problem is or how easy a problem is. So they start off in the middle. If they miss a problem, they get an easier problem. If they get that problem, they get a harder problem. So it's very hard to explain that to them, but if they can see that piece of paper and see what they still need to work on, they can come to us and we'll help them do that. We also just tell them, because they know nothing. They're walking in there to a TSI test, and they have no idea what it is. So we kind of explain to them. We explain that they'll first get a problem in the middle. If they miss it, they'll get an easier one. All right, I need to go back. There we go. And then we also show the same video that they're going to see after taking the test. So if anyone wants to come, I've had students come talk to me, and I bring them right to this page because they can get all the information they need right from this page. Did I miss anything? Pardon me? Oh, okay. Where is it? Another reason this is really important is the state of Texas decided that we need to be 100% co-rec in the fall. We've had House Bill 2223, started in 2018, but at CTC we've been doing co-recs since 2013. We had a grant with Texas State. And they let us ramp up, and then they decided to do 100%. The way a co-rec works is the student really is in the college math. They're in the college math class, but they're also in a supplemental instruction math course. And what we do is they'll do a little college work, then we'll do a little developmental, do a little college, do a little developmental. It's not that they do all the developmental and try to catch up really fast so that they can take the college class. We do what's called just-in-time teaching. And that way, they're only getting the material caught up that they need at that moment to be successful in the college math. It's also good for their psyche because they're in the college math. We tell them, at the end of the semester, you got to see you're better in this class, you're done with your math. We also have, of course, lots of targeted tutoring, targeted supplemental instruction. We will be 100%. It's not easy, but we will do it. We have co-recs for 4 different math classes, freshman math classes. So we have contemporary math, statistics, college algebra, and then starting this fall, the STEM college algebra also. We are allowed to have a very low-level class only for students that test in what we call diagnostic 1 through 4. This is very low. This is testing in at about elementary school level. So they do not count against the 100% co-rec, but then once they're successful there, we can get them into a co-rec. So in theory, we are getting them through that first college math right away. We also have English. Right now we have the English comp. It works the same way. They are in both classes, and they're learning the concepts from developmental that they need for the English comp. They also have what we call a base NCBO for those very low level. We do have a history co-rec. That one has not been run since the pandemic because it's a little hard to get the enrollments, but we hope to get that back as well. All right, I think we're good. Do you have questions?
Do you have a question? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
The developmental classes, does financial aid pay for those classes?
Yes, they do. They pay up to 18 hours of developmental.
Well, if an individual is in a course and they don't do well and they have to go back, take a developmental class, it covers that also?
It does until they get to the 18 hours. And so that's another reason we really want them to do their best on the TSI and not just test into a low level when that's not what they need. Because you're right, then they run out of money for developmental. So we really want them to get into that co-rec, which is only 4 contact hours. And that way, if they have to take it again, they're going to be okay.
Before I became a board member, my family and I established a scholarship that would pay, excuse me, pay for the developmental courses if financial aid, I don't know that it's been used yet, but if financial aid doesn't pay for it, then my scholarship will help assist that adult female
That's awesome.
in accomplishing that. But it's something I think you should know about.
Yes.
So that if you need the money, it's there, and it will continue to be there, will continue to contribute. Second thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned retake. How many times can an individual take that test that will allow them to enter the courses?
I believe it's unlimited.
Great.
Yes.
Great. Great.
What
Thank
we
you.
were trying to talk to them about is maybe not take the math and the English on the same day. Maybe plan that different, because we do think they have test fatigue. I've been trying to talk to students as they enroll and find out if that's what's happening, but it's hard because students are very sensitive when you know, I only see the low-level students, but we're trying to figure out if that's what's happening, is they're just not finishing.
I spent approximately 10 years doing the combined work that you guys are doing, much better and much more automated than I was doing and my staff was doing. But I appreciate counselors because I just need counselors because you guys are so important to the students in communicating, because they will hear you far better than they will even hear their parents when it comes to, and I wish I could give every counselor that I know a heart of caring and just the genuine drive to want to help the students. You guys seem to have that, so my work is done. No,
Well,
you guys seem to have
I
that.
appreciate that, and I'll just add, I went through developmental math at a community college in Arkansas. It was not the way
Right.
her program is. I have told countless students, I would have loved to have what you have at your fingertips, because I struggled. And so, knowing that and talking to students and sharing with them the opportunities, and that's one of our pieces of information. Ellen sees them later most of the time, and we're talking to them prior to. So trying to impart the importance of taking the test seriously, and then their options, so that they don't get stuck at that level of capping out with the financial aid. But it is good to know about different opportunities. And I was to say, we work with financial aid. There are certain things they can do in extreme situations if something should occur. But I will say, with the state moving to the CORECs, I haven't seen that in the past few
Right.
semesters, but we did used to see that previously. So I think the move was a very good move by the state, very, very well thought out.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
I appreciate that. Any other questions?
General Weaver, I'd like to add, it's not on here, I wasn't supposed to be here today, so these would have come under my comments. As a two-part series of a 20-part series, to bring people to the table to discuss what they do at the college, to let you all be informed as to what we're doing, and to know that we are doing lots of great things, and you can see the dedication that they have, and the desire to do well, and to keep our students coming back here and do the things that need to be done. So hats off to the admissions and recruitment update, as well as to the TSIA project. So thank you once again, Dr. Garrett, thank your team.
I have a
And,
quick question before you get away.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Being dyslexic and being the dumb kid from West Texas, I had a hard problem in school. And your video is very good, but it left me wondering, if I'm struggling with the English language, how in the world can I read all that in the time that's given? And I wonder why you don't have the audio there so I can listen to it at the same time I'm looking at it.
We went through that process with the marketing team, and they advised us on the.
I understand about
they're seeing,
advisors,
yeah.
but I'm talking about the real world. I'm
Right.
talking about kids who struggle with the English language to start with, and then you give them words that they trip over, so they can't keep up with the video. That's my problem. I think you need to work on that a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sir, back to you.
Item number 5 then would be the Carlsberg advertising contract renewal. Ms. Malone?
Okay, what we've got here is, my slides are in the reverse order, so if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with the Target X, which is the next agenda item. Is that okay? Or should I fast
It's
forward?
okay.
It's okay? Okay.
That's fine.
So these are fairly closely related but different topics that come up for renewal at the same time every year. The first one, which is not the first one on your list, is Target X and Salesforce. And this is a contract that we've had for a few years, and it is our constituent relationship management. So it is not our student information system like Amy was talking about, but it does things that help us communicate with students and process applications. This will be the last option year, and we are recommending that we exercise that. It comes in two parts, so on your board agenda, you will see two line items. You'll see one for Target X and one for Salesforce, because Target X is a higher ed specific product that's laid on top of Salesforce, which is a very large CRM tool that businesses use. And what we do in Target X and Salesforce is, as Amy said, we do all that online application and application review, and the reports she talked about, she's pulling from Target X, right? No, pulling from, okay. Anyway, and we do communication based on where they are in the student stage. So, you know, if they inquire, we ask them to apply. If they apply, we ask them to enroll. If they enroll, it hands off to the retention folks who try to give them tools to make them successful. So it also includes event registration, like all of our virtual events and our new student orientation and our open house that we have coming up that I don't know if anybody's talked about yet, but it will include registration for that, for prospective students especially, because we want their information so we can follow up with them. And then the system also runs the early alert system, so faculty can note when a student is having trouble or difficulty in a class or is not coming to class, and the retention folks send out alerts to the student that says, hey, your professor says that you're this, please contact us so that we can help you. And then we do have staff that have accounts, and that's staff worldwide, so our sites also have access to reports and information that's helpful to them. It doesn't replace colleague, but sometimes it's easier to look at things there because you can look at things there and communicate right there. And the go-between with colleague and Salesforce is the application gets exported into our student information system. It is processed and comes back over to us, at which time we change their student stage. So it tells us any time there's a change to their record, it comes back over to us. So we get a daily import with updated information. And that's how we stay on top of where a student is in the process so we can communicate with them. And I think that is the basics of it. I'll go back to the money. So at the board meeting next week, we will have two line items, one for Target X and one Salesforce, and these are the negotiated annual rates. So one more year, and then we'll figure out if we're going to stick with them or try something else.
Any questions, Mr. Millard? I think you covered items 5 and 6 there. Yes.
Not yet. I haven't done 5 yet. No.
Well, the Carlsberg advertising renewal
Right.
contract was number 5.
That's the one I need
You
to
said we
do
want to
next.
recommend that we extend that.
I've got
And
it
then you
now.
jumped right over into Target X, which is
Yes.
the next item. Okay.
My slides were not in the same order as the agenda, which I should have noticed. I apologize. So does anybody have any questions about Target X or Salesforce or what we do with it or anything? So Carlberg used to be Richards Carlberg, but now they have changed their name, so they're just Carlberg. And if anybody's interested in why, it's a very long story, just see me and I'll let you know. But the bottom line is they are exercising the third option year of our contract. They're the ones that do logos and branding and some of our big, like if you saw the annual report, they do the design on things that are difficult and need their expertise. They also do our TV advertising and all the social media and some radio and things like that. It is a services contract, so we don't specify an amount in the renewal of the contract. It's kind of as we spend money, which is always going to be based on what my budget is. So generally we pay for them to produce advertising, but the reason the dollar amount is so high is because we also pay for them to use their expertise to place advertising. So I don't have separate line items in my budget for TV advertising. It's all in here, and same with radio and social media. And that is about 75% to 80% of what we pay them every year. and agency time and production costs is about 15 to 20%. And we did a lot this year because we kept changing things. Oops, sorry. So it was awarded in September 2018 with 4 options years, and I already went over this. So any questions about Carlberg advertising?
I just have a comment. I saw the combined efforts of our college, Temple and
McLennan.
McLennan. They did not do that.
They didn't? It's
No.
excellent. I was very proud of it, and I wanted to make it a point to compliment you publicly
Well, thank
on
you.
how nice it was done. It
We-
just shows, it really shows, although we are in competition with one another in some aspects, it shows that we can also work together.
And we started that last fall, I believe, so it's been running each long semester,
It's
and
been more
we just kind of
frequent lately.
update it.
It's been more
Um,
frequent lately, which is appropriate.
Yes, on cable, and I think our fall advertising that Carlsberg did has started up this week, so you should start, depending on what you're watching, you should see it.
Mr. Armstrong?
Do they give advice, Magna would, or are we on our own to determine how much advertising we do? For
Well-
instance, my question arises.
Don,
from-
could you, to the mic, please, because I can't hear you.
Okay. My question arises out of the Southern New Hampshire University program they have. And they're on, and I think nationwide, practically every day. And, which is very costly, I imagine. And I've heard us say in the past that it is so costly to advertise that we're, sort of cautious about our expenditures in that regard. But see Vista on TV a lot. They've got a sign right out here on this main boulevard that I say has more traffic in Texas, and you don't even know CTC's down here when you go down that road. So, there's,
Are you talking about I-14, or?
excuse me?
Are you talking about I-14,
No, I'm talking
190?
about Clear
Clear
Creek
Creek.
Road.
Clear Creek, the way the billboards work is we have 2, well, we have more than 2 now, but, and they rotate. So we will have one on Clear Creek probably once a quarter. Those are called Rotary Billboards. So we'll always have one on I-14. It changes locations every quarter. We have a permanent board that's by Lowe's. It's visible from I-14, but it's right there. If you get stuck in the Target parking lot, you're looking at it. And then the others rotate, usually between Fort Hood Street, Clear Creek, and Stan Schluter. So we try to cover the bases because Clear Creek has a lot of traffic, but when we choose billboards, the billboard companies can give us a traffic estimate. So we try to look at the boards that have the most so that we can get the most for our money, because the billboard company charges the same for all their big billboards. So I work with them on that. They'll get the proposal from the rep, but I'll go out and figure out where these are, whether they're good visibility, and that's how we do billboards. So as far as the expenditures and worldwide, we have to weigh cost against probability kind of, and because what is it called? Southern New Hampshire is a for-profit. They have a lot more money than we do because they charge a lot more tuition than we do. So what we've done with the reduction in some of our military audiences is we've really cut the focus on that and chose to focus more on this local area. That doesn't mean that we're not getting outspent by us in Southern New Hampshire on TV, but we're going to be out there on TV, but we focus most of our advertising budget on digital. And billboards are very expensive, so they take up a good chunk.
And I'm not, didn't intend to suggest the type of advertising we do, but do we have a method of determining the results we get for whatever advertising we do?
We do, depending on the medium. You know, you can't really measure with television and billboards and traditional radio. You can only measure that people have had an opportunity to see it. You know, they know what the ratings are. They know how many cars drive by. Doesn't necessarily mean they look at it. With the digital, we know clicks. So, and what the digital advertising, which is another reason we focus on it, what it does is it drives people to a web page. And when we see those clicks, Facebook and some of the social media sites now will optimize. So we'll run 3 different versions of an ad, and as one of them builds more and more traction, they'll run that one more. So it's like an automated way to make sure you're pushing the message that works the best. And it's similar with, you know, the ads that pop up when you're on a specific website or on a phone app. So so the answer is yes, to some extent we know what our results are. Being able to tie those to an enrollment is much more difficult. So our goal is generally to get them to the website where they have an opportunity to apply and get information.
And I'll shut up after this. The online education, I keep hearing ads on TV that a particular university or college or something has the lowest cost online education well, I won't say this, they just say they have the lowest, and I guess I think ours has to be very competitive, so should we?
Are you talking about, you see these on television, these
Yes,
ads?
sir.
Yeah. Well, we have those similar ads, and as a matter of fact, 2 of those will be shown to you at the board meeting next Tuesday. They weren't on the agenda today, so we couldn't get them on, but we'll show them to you next Tuesday. But yes, we do have those same ads. They pop up at various times. You might have missed them, so I miss them a lot because I see the others because they kind of glare out at me. But yes, we have them.
And he calls me the next day, just so you
I do.
But I don't know. I'd love to know who says they have the lowest, because that is, I mean, unless there's a college around here that I'm not aware of, they do not have the lowest. I mean, if one of our billboard executions says lowest, most affordable college in the region,
Right.
and it's true. I mean, we beat anybody in this area, and especially the for-profits, because their
They're
tuition
high.
is
Those
a lot.
for-profits are very high. They don't talk about their tuition. They just talk about, but those that advertise the tuition, we're lowest. We're lower than they are, and we do advertise that as well.
I've seen the one that Don's talking about, and they don't tell you what their cost is.
Right.
And I suppose advertising that you have the lowest and telling the truth are not necessarily the same thing.
Not necessarily the same
That's right.
thing, but we could certainly,
Misleading.
if I knew who it was, we could
Well-
certainly shoot him a little email and say, sorry, what's your tuition?
And that's why we've depended on Carlsberg for their expertise on those issues and how to push those out. And then we have a lot of input on that as well. So it's not just we're contracting with them and they do it all without our input. We have lots of input on that.
Yeah, we kind of go through a planning process with them before each registration season, and just kind of talk about what do we focus on. And it's been a lot harder question in the last year and a half, because, we had messaging that was working before the pandemic, and then it didn't seem like it was working during the pandemic. So now we're trying to figure out what is going to work. So, I wish I knew what was keeping people from coming, because then you can develop advertising to combat that. But a couple of the things that we're doing this year, which you'll see one of them next week, is talk about coming back, being back to normal. Give people a feeling like, come back to CTC. Everything is, you can be in person, you can be online if you want to, but we're here and we're open. It's said much more eloquently than that. So, you know, we're going to try that message. We're doing that on pretty much all media. And then we're going to continue to hammer on short-term training. You know, we thought there would be a lot of unemployed people, but of course, the unemployed people aren't looking for jobs, so we're hoping they're looking for school. And then also just on affordability, because that is one, our online ads and that promote online learning and our affordability ads are consistently good, draw a lot of clicks. So,
Dr. Carl? Yes, sir.
Is it all right if I tell a fib?
If it's on the agenda.
I said a moment ago, that was my last question, but I got to finalize it with this. Which I've said several times, and I know y'all getting tired of hearing it, we've got one of the best traffic environments out on Clear Creek. I would like to see us come up with some idea, because my opinion of advertising, word of mouth is the best. And if we just need to have something out there that says, this is CTC. We got a big sign on that building up there, Central Texas College. But when you're driving down the road and you got people trying to run over you, you need something that's more readily visible. So just let's not forget that importance of that road out there to saying, this is CTC. You're here, down this road. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make a comment. Ms. Marla, don't be, don't be discouraged. One thing I do know from 25 years of working with lots of people, everybody and their brother think they can do marketing and HR. So when we talk to you about things, don't be discouraged. I appreciate the things that I see. I'm proud of them. Particularly when my husband makes comments, there's your college or whatever. I'm always proud of that. But one thing I know from having worked with lots and lots of people over the 25 years of my employment, every person on the street can do marketing and HR. So don't be encouraged. Don't be discouraged.
well, but on the same token, when people tell me, you know, oh, well, why don't you do this, or how come we're not doing that, I don't ignore it.
I know.
You know, and we talk about it, discuss it, because I've been here a while, and it's pretty easy to get into a rut until there's a pandemic, and then you have to change everything. But yeah, so I appreciate the input always, and you know, if I do what you think maybe we should do, then that's great, and if I don't, it's because we decided
Well,
that wasn't the
we take all
best
these
thing.
and take it to our advertising agency and
Mhm.
work with them, so that's why we want to continue with them. That's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
recommendation we'll bring to you next week.
I always applaud Mrs. Coley's articulation, but she left preachers out of the list as well.
That was intentional, sir.
Yeah, you get a criticism every week, huh?
Not criticism, suggestions.
Critiques, I'm sorry, critiques. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Next item is number 7, which is comprehensive insurance coverage. Mr. Hickman?
Alrighty, good afternoon. This year, all of our insurance contracts expired, so we've been through multiple RFP processes in order to get new contracts for all our insurance. So what I'm bringing you today, and you should have a handout in your packet there, is the comprehensive insurance coverage. Now, this is all of our different insurance lines except for property, which was done last month, and cyber and firing range, which we actually didn't get any bids for this time. So we're going through another RFP process as we speak for those two. I'll bring those two to you next month at that meeting. So for these contracts, which is the majority of our insurance, we had 2 insurance companies provide bids for everything. And on the backside of your handout lists those 2 companies, AJG and Alliant, and what they bid on. and what we recommended for them. So bottom line up front, we're looking at a grand total all around for this particular lines of insurance at $812,294. And not going to go through coverage by coverage and every company that's on there. You'll see it on your handout. But administration is recommending that you approve the particular companies for the lines that we have on this one. Now, this grand total, what we're paying for insurance this year, is about on par with what our renewals were last year. So far, we haven't seen any major increases or anything that was totally unexpected. So, are there any questions about insurance?
Any questions, Mr. Hickman? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your diligence.
Thank you, David.
Next item is the number 8, Cigna Group Term Life and AD&D insurance coverage. Ms. Jordan?
Okay, good afternoon. I guess it's insurance topic afternoon. I am here before you to request the continuation, or at least in next week's meeting, we'll talk about the continuation of life insurance for our employees. And this is something that I've been coming to the group for quite a while, but I do it once a year. So let me kind of refresh you on what this insurance is. Our employees and our retirees, they have what we call state insurance. So that is completely separate from what I'm talking about today. This is CTC life insurance. Life insurance that we provide our employees in the event, hopefully nothing happens to them while they're employed, they would be eligible for some life insurance. And then also a select group of retirees have received this life insurance. And for those retirees, the amount is up to $100,000. It's all depending on their salary when they departed. You can see in your handout, this price tag, it continues to increase. And the most expensive portion of the coverage is for the retirees. You can see that that's well over $300,000. So next week I'll come before you to request the continuation of this coverage, and it would be exercising the second and the final option period with our contract with Cigna.
Questions?
Any questions?
Any questions, Ms. Jordan? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, would you, Holly, would you explain what these 32 individuals, when you say it's based on their salary, is it like 1 times their annual salary, that kind of
Yes,
thing?
and that's, for employees, it's 1 times their annual salary up to $150,000, okay? For retirees, it's 1 times their annual salary when they departed, up to $100,000. And you can see here we have 277 retirees that currently have the coverage, and then there's 481 active employees that have that coverage while they're working here. And then we have this unique group of individuals, 32 employees that are eligible for the retiree insurance once they separate, once they retire with the college. And that select group of individuals, we discontinued the retiree insurance and as of 1993. So individuals had to be hired by 1993 to be able to keep that insurance when they retire. So I'm not eligible for it. Some of the employees here are not eligible, but then we have 32 employees that will continue that insurance when they retire.
And your explanation is clear to probably most, but I was a little confused about.
Yeah, it is. It is a unique plan, not one that I've heard other community colleges offer. But as you can see at the very beginning of the handout, we've been doing this since 1970, so well over 50 years. So it's been a great benefit for employees. In addition to the phenomenal benefits we have, which I call our state benefits. We can have a separate conversation. I can tell you, I can speak for 30 minutes or so about our benefits, but they're very comprehensive and very attractive. Probably some of the best that I've seen in any industry. So,
I guess the important thing, this is the last option period of this contract, correct?
yes, yes, sir.
Mr. Armstrong?
Would you mind checking?
Don, could you get closer to the microphone?
Gotta get on
We
the
can't
mic,
hear what
Little
you're
mic
saying.
towards you.
Remember, it's being recorded, these are being out to the public, so.
Yeah, maybe I don't want people to hear what I say. Would you mind checking, please, with one of the insurance companies and see if there would be any, good plan for, say, a person that's going to work this year and then retire 20 years from now, or 30, whatever, and that they could continue the life insurance program that they're carried under at their expense. Would it be beneficial to them? I mean, you know, a better cost for them.
Well, I can tell you right now, we already offer life insurance that's through that, what I call the state plan. Employees, we can purchase our own life insurance up to 4 times our annual salary. And then when we retire, we can keep that insurance. So that, and it's, you know, the rates are pretty good because it's a group plan.
That was sort of what I was, good, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this being the last year we can consider this, we can anticipate future cost rise. Is that correct?
Well, it's hard for me to say, sir.
I know it's
on
hard
one
to say,
hand,
but in the practicality of it, we may increase rates quite a bit.
yes, yes.
With our present plan, and we've got 32 employees right now who haven't retired yet, are still eligible for this benefit. So I think we need to go to the waxworks and look at what the possibility would be of doing some buyouts or doing something to reduce the cost overall. Unfortunately, the insurance is bad. Yeah, I bet that I live longer than the premiums. But in this particular case, there's no bet because it's a freebie. So there's not a really incentive to cash it in, so to speak. So we kind of stuck with it, but as long as it's increasing, then we either have to find the money in the budget to do that, or we have to find an alternative way to satisfy our obligation, which we promised, you know, like you said 50 years ago, we'd do this.
Right.
It's just something that's it's a quandary that we can't bury our head in the sand, but we've got to look at it from a practical sort of view of what we can do to satisfy our requirements and at the same time keep our costs in check.
Right. Well,
Holly, do I recall a time that we looked at a buyout? Have we not done some of those?
we've done some of that work, and then at that time, we decided it was really pretty expensive, cost prohibitive. But Mr. Reaver is correct, and, you know, I had some numbers here from 2009, okay, I mean, that was, you know, a few years ago. But our premium for retirees was less than 80,000. You know, now we have quadrupled that. So I do think, sir, definitely we can, whenever we're preparing those documents to go out for bid, we can get creative and see what kind of responses we get. The premiums may increase. Unfortunately, the only way the number will go down is as more retirees pass away, which obviously we don't want. But we have had a significant number of claims from retirees passing away these last 2 years, unfortunately. Yes.
Any other questions, Ms. Jordan?
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your diligence there. Item number 9 is recommend any topics for upcoming agenda items or any announcements by the board members. Mr. Armstrong?
No, thank you.
Mr. Hollinger?
We received a letter from the faculty senate that I thought that was gonna be on this month's agenda. Did that get set back or extenuating circumstances, or where
Yeah,
did that go?
It was tabled in that it wasn't from the faculty senate, as I recall. I don't know.
It's from an individual,
Yeah,
who
anonymous
said he was
letter.
speaking on behalf of the, faculty senate. I
Correct.
discussed it with the chancellor, and until we can get some more facts, it's kind of premature to bring it to the, y'all got the same letter, we know what we're talking about.
I
but
think I was the only one that
It
did not
appeared to be a little bit
receive one.
skewed, and I think there's some facts missing, so I've asked the chancellor to check into that. So we'll bring it up next month.
So, the governor signed more than a few bills, but one of them was what we had a discussion on a couple months ago, I believe it was in May, about banking and about with our bank, Bank of America, and their support of anti-2A stuff. And are we, when does that law go into effect? And what kind of plans we're making to execute a change?
We'll put that on the workshop agenda for next month and let Mr. Liberty talk about that.
I forgot what the House bill was, but
Yeah.
I think you know which one I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much for participating. At this moment, we are adjourned.